talk to us about goings-on in Morrisville. I have two town officials joining us. Todd Thomas is the zoning administrator, planning director, health officer, and Tricia Fullert is the community development coordinator. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining the program this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
And Tricia, I want to start with you a little bit because Small Town Big Developments is the name of this series, and so we're very curious about what is happening on the community development, economic development front here in Morrisville this week. And so tell us a little bit about, is it your sense that Morrisville is bouncing back from some years that were a little leaner in terms of economic activity up here?
Yes, it's bouncing back in a big way.
What do you think was the nadir? I think of the clothing, Arthur's clothing store closing down as sort of being or was that just a bump in the road, would you say?
I would say that was a bump in the road. That was during the time that I really felt like Morrisville was stepping back up, raising the bar around our community. I have been with the town close to 8 years, and I think a lot of it is the community comes together. You know, we have done many projects around our community, but it's also think big, start small.
Start small.
We're a small community, so think of the big picture. Where do we want to be in 10 years? But also start thinking about these small projects that are going to get us there. And I think this community has very much rallied around that. We started a music series here in the community. It was last night here at Oxbow Park. There had to be 400 people at this.
Wow.
That is community coming together.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of that kind of spirit and just sort of, it's fairly mild, but I almost want to call it a form of excitement about what's going on here. There seems to be a lot of hopefulness and so on.
There is a lot of excitement. You know, with new projects as they come down the road, the community has been grasping these. And I think Todd will talk a little bit about our history and art walk that we just did with a green line in town. It created a fabulous buzz in our community. You know, it got people out. They appreciate the great things that we have in our community. And sometimes you have to lead people to the trough.
Sure.
You know, and you have to bring them in, and you have to show them what is really here. And I think many people didn't really see how many great assets we have in this community.
Wow. So, Todd, tell me a little bit about, as the zoning administrator and planning director, you obviously you have your hands right on various projects going on in town. What's in the works right now? What's coming? Can you fill us in on some actual physical development happening?
Sure. We're very busy, and relatively to where we started, like Tricia, I've been here about 8 years. We are, for at least Vermont size, we're booming compared to where we were. When I got here in 2010, there were 7 or 8 empty buildings in the downtown. Some of them had pigeons in them, open to the elements. We went through with the Planning Commission, the Select Board, and basically said, which buildings do we like? And I went through the zoning and said, these are the 17 reasons why you can't rebuild these buildings. So we stripped down the zoning, we eliminated parking requirements, and because of that, we saw a lot of developer interest back into the downtown. All the buildings, all the empty buildings we're talking about are filled. We've encouraged more residential development. The second and third floors of these buildings are now filled. There's more people living downtown. And this is the same time the truck route was coming in and bypassing the downtown, so we wanted more shoppers here in our downtown for the people who weren't going to drive through anymore to patronize our great businesses in the downtown. And from there, we've went from, I think, from the post office redone, which was the late 80s, early 90s, to when I got there were 0 housing starts in the downtown over the last 20 years. Wow. And since then, we've gone well over 100 new housing starts in the downtown. Just in the town alone, when I first started here, I did 5 or 6 new residential permits a year. I might break 100 this year. I did 60 last year, 50 the year before. So the amount of housing being built in this community is almost unfathomable as little as 5 years ago.
What is the current population of Morristown?
I think we're closing in around 6,000 people.
Okay. And is that up? Is that
That's up. We've this town's actually grown pretty much every census since they started doing the census. I think there's one during the Civil War where it didn't, but we always generally grow.
Wow.
And we're expecting more growth in 2020 when that census numbers come out.
And the planning and zoning aspects of this, you mentioned that there used to be requirements for a certain number of parking places per unit, I gather.
Correct.
Or per business and so on. One of the challenges in community development, obviously, is parking. And Are you feeling now, like with more people downtown, that that's becoming tighter, or is there still ample parking around? Or
there's still plenty of parking on the streets in downtown Morrisville. You don't need to worry about not finding a parking space if you want to come to Peck's and buy gifts or flowers or any other great downtown businesses or restaurants. Honestly, a parking problem is something I want to have. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a parking problem than no one on the streets and no parking at all.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, obviously, and you know, all of these things. I mean, a lot of them anyway can be kind of double-edged swords in a sense. You mentioned the bypass, and a lot of communities that are contemplating building a bypass or having one built by state and federal government mainly worry about, oh my word, are we going to lose all of our business coming through town? The upside, obviously, is you don't have the truck traffic, and you just cut down on people who really only want to pass through.
Sure.
And
I think it's actually helped us. The truckers actually helped us. My office is right on Portland Street, Route 100 right here.
Yep.
And I used to sit there in my office with my windows right in the sidewalk, and I wasn't sure if it was an earthquake or a lumber truck coming through every 45 seconds or so. So the trucking on here was really inhibited people from sitting out on the patio, having a burger, having a drink, and enjoying the downtown. And I think there was a traffic issue in Morrisville pre-truck route, and the traffic has dropped off, which has actually helped people come back downtown. People avoided downtown Morrisville because you'd get stuck here with a small T traffic Vermont problem. Now they don't have that, so now the village feels more pedestrian friendly. There aren't large trucks coming through all the time. It feels much more walkable. It's the same village, but the feel is totally different.
Yeah.
And the stores that track these things have more walk-up customers.